All right, today we're going to follow the money, but not in the usual way. No, we're on the trail of something a little strange, actually, a single carbon credit. We're going to trace its incredible journey, all the way from its birth on a farm in the middle of a desert to a global marketplace where, get this, pollution itself has a price tag. So here's the path we're going to take. First up, how is a carbon credit even made? Then, how do you turn that into a real product you can trade? Where is it bought and sold? Who's footing the bill for all this? And of course, the big one, can this whole new market actually make a difference? Let's find out. Okay, let's dive right in. And our story starts, believe it or not, in a place you'd probably never expect when you're talking about global finance, a farm. And this quote, this right here, is the absolute core of it. It's the little seed that the entire carbon economy grew from. I mean, think about it. The simple but kind of revolutionary idea that just doing the right thing for the land, like farming sustainably, could create a real, actual financial asset. So what does this look like in the real world? Well, it starts by totally rethinking what we call waste. I mean, take animal manure. What if it's not just waste, but a valuable raw material for stopping methane from getting into the air? And what about industrial leftovers, things like potato fibers? Could they be turned into a source of revenue and a way to fight climate change? And get this, what if even a patch of seemingly empty, barren desert could become a little factory for environmental good just by capturing carbon? Well, the amazing answer is yes. All three of these things, they're already the starting point for generating valuable carbon credits. And this is not just some theory. Look at that number, 4.1 tons. That is how much carbon projects like the SECAM initiative in Egypt can literally pull out of the air and store in the ground, per hectare. They are proving right now that you can lock carbon away safely just by using compost and organic farming. Okay, so you've managed to capture some carbon out on the farm. That's awesome. But now what? How do you take that positive action and turn it into something you can actually buy or sell on a market? Well, that's where you have to turn it into a standardized product. Right, first things first, you need a standard unit of measurement, a kind of universal currency for climate action. And that's exactly what a carbon credit is. 1 credit equals 1 ton of CO2, either removed from the atmosphere or stopped from getting there in the first place. Honestly, you can just think of it like a receipt for a good deed. Now, this part is really important. This isn't just a back-of-the-envelope calculation. Turning an environmental good deed into a financial product, well, it's a surprisingly tough 5-step industrial process. You've got project design, then calculating what would have happened without the project, constant monitoring, and then an independent audit. Every single step is there to make sure that the final credit is totally legit and trustworthy. And this is what that looks like in the real world. This isn't just theory, it's an actual monitoring plan from a biogas project. I mean, look at it. They are tracking everything, from the dry matter content of manure to the electricity being generated. It's all recorded, all checked, to prove beyond a shadow of a doubt what their climate impact really is. Okay, so we've got a verified, audited, and officially issued credit. We have a product. So what's the next logical question? Where do you go to sell this thing? This is where it gets really interesting because there are basically 2 different worlds for carbon markets. On one side, you have the regulated or compliance markets. Think of big industries that have a legal cap on their pollution. If they go over that limit, they have to buy credits. It's the law. Then, on the other side, you've got this booming voluntary market. This is driven by companies like Google or Microsoft who choose to buy credits to hit their own carbon-neutral goals. And believe me, the growth here is just explosive. Back in 2010, only about 5% of global emissions were covered by any kind of carbon price. Just a decade later, that number quadrupled to over 20%. That's not just growth. That's a massive shift in how the world is starting to think about the real cost of pollution. And this is the final, crucial piece of the puzzle. Once a company uses a credit to offset an emission, that credit is retired. It's taken off the market for good, so it can't be double counted or used again. At the very end of this long journey, you get a verifiable certificate, like this one. It's the proof that a real-world climate benefit happened, it was paid for, and it's been properly accounted for. But hang on, let's just pause and rewind for a second. That biogas plant we talked about, or that soil project, they need money to get off the ground in the first place, right? So where does that initial cash actually come from? Well, that startup money comes from a whole ecosystem of what's called green finance. It's a real mix. You've got huge multilateral climate funds, national development banks,
government programs, and more, you're seeing private investors jump in. They're all trying to steer money toward projects that can actually fight climate change.
And here is a perfect real-world example of that in action. Egypt's EPAP program. It pulls together over 145 million euros from international partners to offer a mix of loans and grants. This money goes straight to industrial companies to help them pay for things like energy efficiency upgrades, which are exactly the kinds of projects that can then generate their own carbon credits. It creates this really cool self-sustaining cycle. So what we have here is a system that's incredibly clever, it's complex, and it's growing like crazy. But what's the bottom line? Is this complicated machine that we've built actually up to the job of solving our climate problem? First off, let's just take a second to appreciate the sheer scale we're talking about. $261 billion. That's what the compliance market alone was worth back in 2020. This isn't some niche, feel-good environmental project anymore. These are serious, heavy-hitting economic forces being aimed directly at climate change. But with that kind of scale comes some really big risks. And this quote gets right to the heart of the market's single biggest challenge: permanence. Think about it. If you pay to protect a forest today, but that forest burns down in 20 years, was the climate benefit actually real? Making sure every single credit is high quality and the benefit is permanent, that is the #1 hurdle this market has to clear. And that leaves us with one final and pretty provocative thought. What we've done here is create a market to fix a market failure. We've literally turned pollution into a product. It's an elegant, powerful, and incredibly complex machine. The defining question for all of us, really, is whether this machine is the right tool for the job.